My first year as a priest, I met this couple and their young son, and the parents were young, good-looking people. I noticed, though, the son had some kind of neuromuscular disability. His mother told me he actually had several disabilities. Parents were tired, exhausted from worrying about their son, from the many visits to doctors and therapists and social workers, from the financial and emotional strain of caring for their little boy. When we began to discuss their faith life, the husband admitted that he didn't go to Mass anymore. He said that his son's disability caused him to question his faith. I said to him, "Do you ask God, why us?" He said, "No. I ask God, why does this happen to anyone?" We've all had our faith in God challenged by difficult circumstances. You might even have thought, if I were God, I'd make a better world than this. How to reconcile evil and suffering with the existence of an all-powerful, all-good God is known as the problem of evil. The first few chapters of Genesis teach that God is not the source of evil. He made everything good. But when the first humans rebelled against God, evil and suffering entered the world. The discord of sin rippled through soul and body, man and nature, from generation to generation. God could have made a world where evil was impossible. That would mean a world without freedom. Freedom makes us like God. Without it, we'd be robots, incapable of hate, but also incapable of love. God values our freedom because freedom is the precondition for love. God could make us immune from pain, with each person perfectly healthy, comfortable, good-looking, and rich. But in a fallen world without suffering, we become spoiled and selfish, without any clue that we are not the center of the universe. Suffering tells us the world is in need of salvation. It can provide the occasion for us to reach out to help one another. God brings good from evil, even though we might not see how. Only from the perspective of the end of the story can you understand the ultimate significance of each event. On Good Friday, the torture and murder of Jesus Christ seemed to be a victory for evil, an unmitigated tragedy. His disciples were devastated, their hopes crushed. But on Easter Sunday, Jesus rose from the dead. Looking back, the disciples could see that Jesus had used the cross to defeat sin and death by his love and obedience. Every suffering Christian can find strength in the passion of Christ and hope in his resurrection. God is not some distant, indifferent landlord. He chose to enter this hurting world, to share our hurt, and to lead us to heaven. When the story ends, we shall see that Christ renews everything. Every tear will be wiped away, and every wrong made right. This isn't wishful thinking. It is hope, grounded firmly on the fact of the resurrection. One day we'll look back on the sufferings of this life as momentary light affliction in comparison to the eternal weight of glory that God has prepared for us. Until that time, God wants us to be agents of his justice and mercy. One day a woman was walking home from work when she saw a little girl standing in the street corner begging. The little girl's clothes were ragged and her cheeks red from the cold. The woman dropped $1 in the begging bowl, smiled at the girl, and walked on. As she walked, she started to feel guilty. How could she go home to her warm house with its full pantry and closet while this little girl shivered on the street? The woman began to get angry with God. She prayed, "Why don't you do something to help that girl?" And then to her surprise, God answered, "I did do something. I created you."